Careers Advisor within the University Careers Service. Generally, in terms of the Careers Service itself, some of the provisions that we actually provide in my role as a Careers Advisor is one-to-one work with students. So we do drop-ins, which include things like checking CVs, applications, and giving support and coaching on interview technique. The service also provide longer one-to-one appointments as well around guidance. So that's for students that really need help with making decisions around their options in terms of what they want to do while they're at university, but also after their studies are finished. We also have an employer team that actually go out and source placements and work experience opportunities for students through things like the Newcastle Work Experience Scheme, which are term time placements and summer placements, part-time jobs, and also we do lots of recruitment fairs as well. So we have 3 main fairs through the 3 to 4 main fairs through the year, which are recruitment fairs where lots of employers will come onto campus and they're specifically looking to target Newcastle students. The statistics that we have for the number of international students that are actually, so these are non-EU students, international students. The statistics for the numbers of students studying here who are undergraduate students are 2,316. Postgraduate students, we have 2,691. So in total, for international non-EU students, we have 5,007. So in terms of a breakdown of the percentage of the whole student population within Newcastle University, there are 13.4% undergraduate students that are international non-EU students, and for postgraduates this is much higher. So this is actually 43.7% of the postgraduate student population are international non-EU students, making a grand total of 21.4%. For students that are graduating, so this is students who are both UK, European Union and international students. So if we're talking about graduation specifically for the UK, there are positions that are out there, so there are vacancies. We have employers each year that come to our campus as part of our graduate fairs, law fairs for example, who are here because they have vacancies for graduates. So many of these employers will have what are called graduate schemes, many of the large employers. So certainly over the past year, things have remained fairly steady compared to back in the recession back in 2008. So generally what we can say is there are vacancies out there with employers. However, there are more and more students who are coming to study at university. So to this extent, it is competitive to get that first kind of graduate job. So generally that would be the sort of general overview at the moment. So employers are recruiting, particularly in certain sectors. So one sector, for example, consulting, has seen a slight increase in vacancies. It depends on, I think it depends on the sector or the career area that the student is applying to. Obviously, if we take, for example, there may be some employers out there, for example, that will have very specific graduate schemes where they require a specific subject, such as mechanical, electrical engineering, chemical engineering. So the degree would be very, very important. If we're looking generally across all career areas though, yes, the degree generally is going to be important, particularly if it's a graduate scheme or graduate level job. It doesn't always matter what the subject is, because there are some career areas where the employer will actually train you up. So just having the degree is important. But actually, if it's an undergraduate degree, increasingly a 2-1 is viewed upon as very attractive. And some employers will only take you on their graduate schemes if you have a 2-1 as a minimum. So that's kind of one factor to bear in mind. But on its own, a degree on its own is not necessarily going to be enough nowadays to secure that first graduate level job because of the competition. So a lot of employers will be looking at other things that you've done outside of your degree. Increasingly, related or relevant work experience is very, very important, particularly through internships, for example, placements. Increasingly important for employers. One of the most recent Association of Graduate Recruitment, which is a professional body representing many of the graduate employers within this country, many of the larger employers, almost a third of those employers have fed back that if a student has no work experience at all, they are extremely unlikely to be able to get through the application process to interview. So that's very important, but also extracurricular activities where possible are highly looked upon by many employers, particularly where you take on a position of responsibility in a student society. It doesn't have to be a student society, but something where you take on maybe a position of responsibility to really demonstrate potentially leadership, initiative skills, rather than just be a member of something. And there's all other things such as volunteering. So Newcastle here do what's called the NCL Plus Award, where you can actually really demonstrate the extracurricular things that you do and work towards this award, which a lot of employers will highly regard. So in essence, for many employers, just having a degree on its own is not necessarily going to be enough today to be able to compete with the competition. What you have as an additional barrier is getting this kind of sponsorship. So what I would say is a minimum really for Chinese international students that come to study in this country, you know, one of the key challenges, particularly if you're doing a master's 1-year course and you want to stay and work in the UK, is, depending on the student, how important spoken English is going to be to the job that you want to go into. So you really have to think carefully, because you're only here for a year, but try to get involved in some kind of extracurricular activities where you're kind of mixing and socialising with students who do have fluent English skills, trying to develop those skills further, buddying up. There's a language centre at Newcastle University where people can buddy up together with students who speak English to develop those kind of skills further. That's really, really important, and that's what a lot of employers will feed back is, unfortunately, where students may not get through the interviews because they can't communicate the English spoken skills. So that's one key thing to really focus in on and try and develop while you're studying here to give you a chance. And the other one is trying to get this kind of relevant work experience. Sometimes, and that's not to say it's impossible for international Chinese students to get sponsorship from companies. Students have been sponsored in the past, but you know, it's not going to be the majority of students being successful. Those that tend to get sponsorship will be those that have developed their English spoken skills and they would have been proactive trying to get some relevant work experience while going through their studies in the UK to give them a solid chance. What students need to be aware of when they're graduating is there is increased competition from other students who are going to be applying for these positions. So they need to make sure that they basically are very proactive while they're studying through their university courses to make them as employable as possible. And that's how we come in as a career service to support those students.